network right here, and there's information going from here over to here, that if it comes up to the edge here and there's a big hole in the brain, a hole in the neurological network, well, how does that information get across there? It doesn't. Or if it does, it goes through some abnormal circuitous way that causes all of the pathological, all the disease-producing things that cause disease as a result of emotional trauma. When I was studying this, there's a internationally known researcher at Stanford University. His name is Robert Sapolsky. He's the nation's leader, the world's leading researcher on stress and its effect on the brain. And what you're looking at right here is a slide of the hippocampus, which is an area of the brain that's associated with memory. Now, just think about this. If this is a memory of a 2-year-old child, this is the memory networks being formed here, and the hippocampus begins to be formed about 18 months, and it's completely formed by about 36 months. But in those early formative years of this being formed, if the patient is having a lot of emotional stress and a lot of emotional trauma, the chemicals that are produced as a result of this chronic, unrelenting stress to the body and the brain literally eats a hole in those neurological networks. And that 2-year-old's brain looks just like that. Now, the overriding scientific approach to this, even up through the mid-'80s. In 1980s, there was a Nobel Prize given to DeBell and Wooten, two famous neuroscientists from Harvard University. They were studying experiential brain development. They were studying how the brain develops as a result of our experiences. Our experiences guide the development of the human brain. And what they concluded was that there's a thing called a period of extinction. There's a critical period that if the brain doesn't get formed a certain way during that critical period, it will never form for the rest of that living organism's life. Now, medicine bought into that. It won a Nobel Prize. It was a pretty good thought. I bought into it. I bought into it from a research, scientific standpoint, but I knew down in here that can't be right. What universe, and I didn't know God at this time, but I was asking myself, what universe would create a highly sophisticated living organism and have it develop an injury to itself in the most critical area of its brain and body and not ever allow that living organism to heal itself? Not give it the mechanisms, the means to heal itself. What kind of a fair universe is there? See, that's what the world believes today. That's why people have such a destitute approach to life today. Because they think that because you've had emotional trauma, or if you're not functioning normally, and I hate these terms, schizophrenia, bipolar, all those psychiatric terms, which I don't think amount to a hill of beans, they're all the same thing. They're an injury to the brain. Every single one of those things is an injury to the brain. And if we can't heal that, if we can't solve that situation ourselves, well, then we better cash our chips in and go home. Because there isn't any hope for any of us. Because as you already know, there's every single one of us in this room and on this planet has been broken. Nobody gets through life unscathed. Even if you haven't lived through it, even if you think you lived through it, you've lived through it. I'm going to show you research to show that. That's the new research. Even if you think you're abused, you've been abused. And every time you think you've been abused, you're getting abused over and over and over and over again. And over and over and over again, you get a hole here, you get a hole here, you get a hole here. The defect continues to widen. Now, believe me, I was giving this talk at the biggest high school in Colorado Springs, Coronado High School. And the biggest, toughest football player in the room, right when I was talking about this, got up and was crying and left the auditorium. And I ran out to the hallway because I was summoned out there by a teacher. And he said, I came from that kind of a background. And I've got those holes in my brain. And he left thinking that that was the end of the story. That he's going to have to live the rest of his life with holes in his brain. Well, hang with me. You don't have to live the rest of your life with holes in your brain, because this universe isn't run by evolution. It's not run by chance. It's not run by the flip of the coin. This universe is run by a loving being. This universe is run by a heart that made us in his own image and his own likeness, and has given us a share of his own life. We can resolve these situations. We can resolve these injuries. We can heal these injuries. So that this all gets filled in.